Welcome to Papa's Workshop. I'm excited to say today I'm unboxing and assembling the Sainsmart Genmitsu Prover XL 4030 CNC router. I'm going to go through step by step exactly how to assemble it, and then in the next video I'm going to test it out and show you just what it's capable of doing. So let's get started. A day in the shop with Papa in Papa's Workshop. To support my channel, please go to patreon.com/Papa's Workshop. In today's video, I am unboxing and assembling the Prover XL 4030. Now I have to say that this box had a rough trip to be able to get from the manufacturer to my shop, but it made it, and thanks to some excellent packing, it survived the trip. As I open up the box, the first thing you're going to see is the manual, all the different paperwork, and the wasteboard. When I take this layer of the packing off, everything is very neatly packed in here with the drag chains, the gantry, the various parts in here, all very well packed, and good thing. The next layer down has the actual base, and it's all pre-assembled along with the controller and the stepper motors. Now, let's get started assembling this. Well, the first step is to get the base out of the box, and this is completely pre-assembled. So all I need to be able to do is make room on the workbench there so that I can pull this out and set it on the table. And once I got it loose from the packing, you can see everything is assembled, and that part is done. Now you still want to check this and make sure that everything survives shipping, but it is nice to say that the whole entire base is completely pre-assembled and ready to continue on with the assembly. But this saves a ton of time and many parts having this work already done for you. Even the limit switch are attached with the wiring done. So again, this makes it easy. Now I wanted to lay out everything that comes in the box, because you have the gantry here, which is again pre-assembled, the controller, all the various components that you need with the dust guards, all the drag chains, and the various screws that you need to be able to assemble it. The wasteboard is already done with all of the screws put into it, the inserts, and along with the manual, which is a very detailed manual. So there is nothing that's really left out of this kit. You have the probe as well, along with USB cables. It is a very complete system. As I open up the manual, this is extremely detailed. The pictures are very clear. They're nice full color. They show you exactly what each of the parts are, what parts you need for each of the components as you're assembling it. It is a very well done manual. And it gives you the step-by-step instructions on exactly how to assemble this CNC machine. Now for those of you that love the specs, I'm going to let you pause the video and take a look at this. The very first thing that I want to do in setting up this machine is make sure that it's square, because in shipping it could have slipped a little bit. Now this is 817 millimeters. Let's switch over and measure this side. And this is 817 millimeters. So everything is still square. The next thing I want to do is make sure that all of these socket cap screws are tight. And that one was loose. And I want to do this on every single one. Because this actually will solve problems later on down the road. I'm going to go ahead and tighten. Yep, that's good and tight. Now I'm finding some of these actually loose, and this is the reason that I think it's so important to be able to check every single one. Now keep yourself organized and make sure that you don't miss any. So I started at one corner and working all the way around. Now these can actually shift a little bit during shipment. You saw how rough that box looked. So they can shift and come loose just a little bit in shipping. And that one was quite loose right there. All right, so now I'm back over where I began. So all of these are now tight. So let's go ahead and now begin with step one. The next step in assembling this is putting the Y motors on. And you have the stepper motor, you have the bracket, and you have the coupler, along with all of the screws that you're going to need. And this is the socket's cap screw, and this is the M5 by the 50mm. You have the various Allen wrenches that you're going to need, and of course the same setup on this side. Not sure you're going to be able to see this real well in the camera, but you can look right down here at this stepper motor, and you can see where this was put together and assembled. And you can see right here where that set screw had been tightened on. So they go to great detail to make sure that everything is going to be just right by pre-testing and pre-assembling before they pack it up and ship it. And you can see that one right there where it had been locked in position. Now I'm going to go ahead and slip the coupler on. Now you have the flat portion, and the Allen screw needs to slide right onto that area. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down. Okay, I've got that one tight. And I want to go ahead and tighten this screw. And that takes the other Allen wrench. Okay, that's good and tight. Now I want to go ahead and put this on. I'm going to put this where it's facing up. This will go on in this manner, and then I'll slip the screws in. I went ahead and set this little Allen screw so it's going to have easy access to it. And I'm going to slip this in, and I'm going to start tightening these screws. Now they're not tight yet. I'm just loosely attaching this. I'm going to start out with the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and put this coupler on. And this is the flat part of the shaft. So I'll make sure that that small Allen screw lines up with that. And you may have to unscrew this a little bit. Okay, they're all loosely screwed in now. So now I'm going to go around and tighten all of them. Now that these are all tight, I want to go ahead and tighten this Allen screw right here. And then I'll rotate this to get to the other Allen screw. And that is now tight. So this completes everything for the Y-axis on both sides, the Y1 and the Y2 motors. The next step is to attach the wasteboard and the dust baffles. Now for that, you're going to need 4 of the M5 16 screws, and you're also going to need 6 of the M5 20s. All of the holes are pre-drilled and tapped, so that makes the alignment very, very easy. So let's go ahead and put the wasteboard on and the dust baffles. Get the holes aligned exactly where it needs to be, and then I can drop that in. I want to do the same thing on the back side to help with the alignment. With the first two in, the remaining should be really easy to be able to get in position. Now again, these are not tight and tight. If I need to slide a little bit left and right, I will be able to do that. You need a total of 8 of these M520 screws. And you want to make sure that the board is put in right side up also, because that does make a difference. These screws are actually recessed in and they're screwed in from the back side. So it's very important to be able to put this wasteboard in correctly, or you're going to have to be changing it out. So I'm going to finish attaching these screws and secure it. There's 4 across the front and 4 across the back. Now you don't want to over tighten these. Just snug is all you need to do with this. I now have all the screws tightened on the dust baffle. I slid it up right next to the MDF. And the other thing I want to point out, with the pattern of the holes for your wasteboard, you see this back section? There are no holes drilled in it. That goes to the back. And the holes that come to the front area, this is the actual front edge. So again, you need to make sure you have it oriented correctly. Now I want to prepare putting on the X motor the same way that I did the Y. So I want to take the coupler and I want to loosen the Allen screws so they'll just slip in. And then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and slip this one on, keeping in mind of that flat portion. So I have that one tight. I'm going to rotate this over, tighten this screw. Okay, I want the wires oriented where it's to the front. And I want this opening going to the rear. So we're going to go ahead and slip this on now. And then I'm going to go ahead and slip in the first screw. And then we'll continue on putting the remaining screws in. So I'll go ahead and tighten the screws now. Again, I want to turn this just a little bit so I can have access to that Allen set screw. And I'll go ahead and tighten that one. And I'll turn it a little bit more to rotate it to get to the larger screw. And that completes the mount of the X-axis stepper motor. Now on the back of the gantry, we have this plate. And we need to be able to attach the drag chain bracket. And that is actually mounted to these 2 screws right here. And all that needs to do is come right into here to be able to attach. And to attach it, you have 2 screws. These are the M5/8. So I'm just going to slip that right in there in between these wires. I'm going to go ahead and get this other one in now and work around that wire. There we go. Pull that out of the way. Then I can just slip that right into position and screw it in. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up now also. Now the drag chain mount is completed. So now it's time to go ahead and mount the gantry. And we're just going to slip that in right here. And now we have 4 screws with the washers and the lock washers to be able to put into here on each side. Now to set this up, you're going to put the lock washer on first, and then you're going to put the flat washer on. And from there, you'll just screw it into the position to be able to hold the gantry. And you're going to do that for all 8 screws, 4 on each side. Now it's time to put these 4 screws in. And same thing. I'm going to take this, put the lock washer on first. Then I'm going to put the regular flat washer on. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process and get all 4 of them in. And one of the things that I always like to do as well is check and make sure that the gantry is perpendicular to the wasteboard. And you can see that that is aligned perfectly. And of course you want to do the same thing on the x-axis and make sure that it's perpendicular as well. And you can see here it certainly is, so no adjustments are necessary. But please don't skip this step. Now that I know that everything is perpendicular and square to the wasteboard, I can go ahead and tighten the rest of these screws. Okay, it's now time to go ahead and install the drag chains. Now these are all pre-wired, and that is really nice. The other thing is this bracket is already attached as well. So the easiest way to do this is start with this end, and it needs to slip underneath this bracket that we put in a few moments ago. So that goes just like that. This will actually turn and come right back to this mount. Now we just have to get these wires out of the way, and then I'm going to set this screw right into that spot. And I'll use the Allen wrench to be able to tighten it up. Now the 2 M4 screws are in place and they're tight, so this end of the drag chain is completed. Let's move over to the other end of the drag chain and attach it. This bracket is going to be attached right here, and the T-nuts are actually already installed. So we're going to use the M5 to be able to put that in there. Okay, the x-axis is now in. Let's move on to the y-axis. Now the brackets for the y-axis are already mounted also, and they're mounted on both ends. It'll be mounted right there, and then a chain will come around and it'll come back and be mounted on the other end right here. Now this takes the M5 16 screws with the flat washer and the lock washer, and I'm going to attach this in first, and then the next 2 screws are actually smaller screws to attach the bracket there. The first thing we want to do is maneuver this drag chain with the wiring already in it, really get it pretty much in place. This will need to get out of the way, come in this direction. Let that lay right here. So that will go right here. I'm going to take this again. We're going to put the lock washer on first, then the flat washer. I'll just slip it in. Do the same thing with the next one. We'll go ahead and slide this over in place and screw it in. Okay, those two now are nice and tight. Now the next bracket will go right here, and for that I have 2 of the M4 8mm screws. So that drag chain now is installed. So now it's time to start connecting the wiring. And this is the wire 1 motor right here, and we're going to connect that. This cable right here goes over to the Y2. We're going to feed that underneath here. And this has two little clips that this will go into, and then we'll connect it over here. And that is completed. Let's just snap these in place. So now my Y motors are all connected. Next, we're going to go ahead and connect the X motor. And this will just plug in right here. Yeah, I didn't hear the click. There we go. And then we connect the Y limit to the Y limit. So that is now all connected. Everything is clearly labeled. This goes to the Z motor. So this will plug in. The Z limit is right here. It plugs into this point. And the Y limit will plug in right here. The last one will connect the spindle itself. We'll go ahead and feed that through here. Then you have the positive and negative, and it's clearly labeled on the spindle. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the negative one first. And then we'll connect the positive. So that completes the wiring. Now we got to connect the controller and plug everything in there. I do want to make a couple of changes. I don't like all of this wiring here. So what I think I want to do, I'm going to unplug this. I think I want to run it around this way. I like that better. And we'll plug it back in. Now I don't want this one running on top. I want it to run underneath. I think that will be better. And as I look at that, it's got a little holder right here for this wire to be able to lock into. There we go. That's the way it should be. Yeah. I like that a lot better. Now I want to look at the controller next. And the first thing, you have a switch on here to convert it from the 110 to the 220. And if you look down inside there, it's actually set for 230 volts right now. So I need to switch that because I have to use 115 in the United States. So that is now switched. The other thing that causes a lot of people problems, especially in shipping, is this emergency stop is down and the machine will not run. So you just need to twist this and make sure that it's in the upward position. If I turn this around to the other side, there's a switch inside of here. This is for your laser and this is for your spindle. And if you look down inside of there, you can see the switch and it needs to be pushed to the rear for the spindle. So that's some very important things that you must do to be able to get this set up. Now, as far as this big bundle of wires, it's really not that big of a deal. So let's sort out this big bundle of wires. So the first thing, this is the X motor, and that will plug in right there. The next one is the Y1 motor, and we have the Y2 motor. So the Y2 motor gets plugged in. And then I'm going to plug in the Y1 motor. And now I need to find the Z. Okay, here's the Z motor right here. And it will plug in. So now all of that is done. Turn it around to the back side. We're going to have these wires left over. First thing, we have this for the spindle. And you do have some little pins here that you need to line up. So So that will go right in there, and then I'll tighten that down. Then I have just this left over. So the Y limit, let's see, we'll do the X limit first. The X limit is right here. So I'll plug that in. And then the next one, what is this? This is the Z limit. So we'll plug in the Z. And I have one left for the Y. And we'll plug in the Y limit. So that really wasn't bad. The only thing that's left is the probe. And I'm going to unplug this so that I can get to it, because I need access to these two little screws. All I need to be able to do is just loosen this up enough to be able to slip these two pins in. Okay, I just slip these two wires in, and then I'm going to retighten that. And those are secured. And now I'll plug this back in. And now the Z probe is connected. Now later on, if you want to attach the laser will attach right here. The last cord that we need to plug in is the power cord. And we'll plug that in right there. And that completes the entire setup. Now you have the USB cable that comes with it also, and it just plugs in right here. If you have an offline controller, of course it'll plug in to this point. Now some quick highlights that I want to go over real quick. These are the NEM23 stepper motors. And this is the 300 watt spindle for this machine. And this has the collets set up for the ER11s, and they have the 1/8 inch collets inside. And this has the threaded rods and the linear bearings, and the limit switches are already pre-attached. Now this will allow you to be able to protect the machine and also home the machine when you first start the operation. The carving range is 400 millimeters on the X-axis, 300 meters on the Y. Now you do get an assortment of bits to start out with. You'd also included is the mount for the DeWalt 611 router, and you have a laser mount that you can use should you decide to upgrade and add the laser. Now you also have the USB thumb drive, that you have the PDF for the instructions. You also have the controller software. And then for later use, you also have the wire with the connector already on it for the laser. And these are the metal clamps that come with this. And more than likely, I will not use these because I typically use the glue and tape method to be able to hold down my projects. But they're here should you want to use them. Thank you for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed watching how to assemble this machine step by step. This is a very solid, sturdy, heavy machine that I think is going to do an excellent job when I start carving. In this next video, I'm going to test it out, and we're going to carve some projects. So you're not going to want to miss out. So please, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right down there and the little bell notification next to it. Very few of my subscribers are being notified, so I need you to hit that notification bell so that you will be notified and watch the next upcoming videos. You're not going to want to miss them. We're going to test out this new CNC router, and then in future videos, we're going to test between the different CNC routers and kind of get an idea of what the capabilities are. So again, hit that subscribe button, the bell notification, hit that like button if you like what I'm doing with the videos, and until next time, I look forward to seeing you in my shop. This was a fun build to do today. I think this is going to be a great machine to be able to carve with, and I can't wait to be able to test it out. And that will be coming in the next videos. Also, take a look at these other videos that you see popping up on the screen so that you won't miss out on any of the happenings in my shop. So again, until next time, I look forward to seeing you in my shop.